Welcome to D-Day Studios' Strat Guide to Mogu'Shan Vaults, the Elegon Encounter. This guide will cover the essentials in the encounter for our everyday raider. Please note that not every detail of the fight will be covered, just the necessities. The Elegon Encounter is by far the most challenging raid fight in Mogu'Shan Vaults, as it is a DPS, heal, tank, raid awareness, and mechanic heavy fight. Failure to perform in any of these departments will result in overall failure in the encounter and prevent raid groups from progressing. Our recommended raid comp is 2 tanks, 2 healers, and 6 DPS. Things to note during Phase 1, 1 tank must be on the boss at all times. If there is no one in melee range of the boss will cast Gripping Tendrils, pulling everyone back to him, inflicting 175,000 base arcane damage. Also, have the tank face the boss horizontally away from the heal so that the boss's frontal cone ability, Celestial Breath, only hits the tank. It inflicts 60,000 base arcane damage every tick for 3 ticks within a 1.5 second frame time. This ability has a wide cone of effect, so make sure not to be standing in front of the boss's head. Also, the ability that all players must watch is Energy Vortex, as it affects everyone throughout the encounter. Energy Vortex occurs when stepping into the outermost ring. It causes 2 things. Firstly, players gain Touch of the Titans, which increases all damage done and healing received by 50%. But at the same time, players gain stacks of overcharge, which increases damage taken by 5%. These stacks continually build up every few seconds and do not dissipate until stepping outside of the outermost circle. We recommend that healers in range stack for the entirety of this phase and stand at the sweet spot along the edge where a player can simply jump up and down to wash stacks. At the start of the fight, we have 1 tank pull the boss and turn the boss horizontally away from the heals. The off tank stays out of the center, avoiding the stacks of overcharge. When the first Celestial Protector spawns, we have the tank swap. The main tank taunts the Ad and runs to the edge of the outermost circle, while the off tank taunts the boss. With the Ad active, we have melee DPS switch to the Ad. The Ad casts Arcane Energy every few seconds, inflicting 95,000 burst arcane damage to 2 players, and leaving a debuff on the players that reduces their healing received by 50% for 20 seconds. Healers must dispel this debuff. The tank with the Ad awaits along the edge until the Ad is roughly 20 to 25% health, and then pulls the Ad outside of the circle. If the Ad remains inside, the Ad will also benefit from Touch of the Titans, giving him a 50% boost to his damage. Stability Flux is cast by the Ad when he drops below 25% health, which inflicts bursts of arcane damage at a base of 22,500. The tank ideally wants to pull him out of the center at this point so that he is not benefiting from the 50% base damage increase. When the Ad is pulled outside of the circle, we have all DPS, heals, and the Ad tanks step outside of the outermost circle, washing themselves of their stacks of overcharge. Once the Ad dies, he casts Total Annihilation, inflicting 200,000 base arcane damage to all players. It is very important to have your players wash their stacks of overcharge and to keep the current boss tank topped off during this cast. After Total Annihilation, we resume full combat with the boss, with these mechanics being repeated until the boss enters Phase 2 at 85% health. Ideally, you want to deal with only 2 ads, but DPS must be aware of the health of the boss, as the moment he hits 85%, he enters Phase 2. If you enter Phase 2 with an ad active, more than likely you will be unable to DPS enough of the orbs that come out. If you have to, deal with a 3rd ad and prevent your DPS from pushing the phase too early. Make sure to take note and assign positions for your raid to split up on various sides of the room for Phase 2. Have 1 DPS assigned per pillar, with a tank positioned to help your weakest DPS player, and a healer set to the middle pillar on either side. This will allow 1 healer to be in range of his half of the raid throughout the entirety of Phase 2. During Phase 2, Elegon casts Draw Power, creating 6 energy particles that radiate to the 6 pillars positioned around the room. During this phase, make sure to have your assigned DPS for each of the pillars work on killing the energy charge, attempting to make their way to the pillar. After each charge is killed, DPS have a moment to inflict damage to the boss, before having to switch to the next wave of energy charges. As each energy charge dies, it inflicts raid-wide damage. Heals on each side are responsible for keeping their half of the raid alive during the waves of energy. Also note that you are still gaining stacks of overcharge. It is recommended that players still wash stacks after each energy charge, but it is entirely dependent on how comfortable your healers are. As each wave of energy charges die, the next wave that comes out will move 20% faster, subsequently making it more and more difficult for dots to take full effect, hindering DPS. It is recommended that a minimum of 5 waves of energy charges are killed. Each wave that is killed leaves a debuff on the boss that increases damage taken by 10%. If able to kill 5 waves, the boss will now take 50% more damage for the remainder of the fight. Once the last wave of energy charges reaches the pillar, you will have to deal with pillars that arise. Keep the raids split exactly as they were during the energy waves, and have them run off the platform and DPS their pillars. Elegon will spawn adds and pools targeted at random players. Healers want to be regenerating as much mana as possible before this occurs. DPS must target pillars as their priority, not the cosmic sparks. The adds must be ignored. Once all pillars have been successfully dropped, every player runs to the front of the room where the dial is, and burn the adds. As soon as the floor appears, one of the tanks must go attack Elegon, while the other holds the adds. All DPS and heals step into the center of the room and burn all the cosmic sparks before targeting the boss again. At this point you have returned to Phase 1, and will rinse and repeat all the mechanics from Phase 1, and must repeat a second Phase 2. Phase 2 enters at 50% health. After successfully ending Phase 2 a second time, you have now reached Phase 3. Phase 3 is a healer check and a DPS burn. Everyone runs into the innermost circle where the melee had been during Phase 1. You no longer attempt to wash stacks. Keep the boss facing away from the raid. From here on out, it's a burn. Make sure to pop Heroism, Lust, or Time Warp once everyone is situated. Have your healers rotate major cooldowns and doing only AoE heals. Everyone else that has any sort of mitigation spells, this is the phase to use them. If you completed the last Phase 2 and have downed all 5 orbs both Phase 2s, your boss should now have 100% debuff for damage taken. Your DPS should be at a minimum of over 100k a second. Bear in mind that is the minimum. If you have someone pulling low numbers, then another raider must be pulling higher numbers to compensate and average the DPS chart so that everyone is looking at around 100k minimum. As always, thank you for watching our tutorial. Special thanks goes out to the Guild Ashes on Sargeras. If you found this video helpful, feel free to subscribe to the channel and like our video. And as always, happy raiding.